What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Between the Spokes podcast, an Anovia Wheels podcast. I'm here with Sam, and I'm Gels, and today we got a fun one. I think episode 8 is cruising right along with these.
I think they've gotten more and more fun because I think we've gotten more and more comfortable. Also, we've gotten more and more comfortable chairs
and matching jackets.
Yeah, this is the jacket cast. This was really funny this morning.
I thought it was going to be good because I waited a couple days since these were handed out. I was like, they're handed out on Friday. We're going to film on Tuesday. I was like, Tuesday should be good.
Well, because I wore mine to the bar that night.
Yeah, everyone did.
Yeah.
And we looked
you
like
didn't,
a freaking...
though, right?
No, I didn't. Because I was like, I know everyone's going to wear this. And I was like, I want to look like a freaking gang rolling up in this freaking
that's what I was hoping for.
Mad Apple,
We're going to a pool hall. It was like, how cool would it be to have 30 of us take over?
Yeah, I was like,
the
okay,
place
we'll give it a couple days. Well, apparently, it didn't matter because here we are.
Yep.
Anyway, today, we have a fun one.
We do. What are we talking about today?
Air versus static.
You know where I'm going to be.
Debate.
I know.
I'm going
to need a bit of a little education, though, because I'm not as knowledgeable about air. But first, what's up? What are you working on lately?
Oh, well, I got the new bumper for 240.
That's right. Last episode, you talked about how you
unfolding it.
Yeah.
I found out I have nothing on the car to actually attach it to, so that's really fun.
Hey, I should have sent it to you last night. I saw a TikTok. A guy, he says, never buy bumpers from China or something like that. Okay. And it was the KBD bumpers.
Oh, and it was all folded up.
Yeah, it was all folded up. He's like, I can't even put it on my car. And all the comments were like, I can't believe you got ripped off. And I was like, okay.
I did see that video. It was immediately after posting, I'm like, this guy did it better. Because I was just I just played at the shock factor of unfolding a bumper, and he was just like, no, look how they ship this. And it was like, everyone's like, oh, what the hell? What are they doing?
I know, it's like, guys.
It was funny.
Most people aren't familiar with that stuff, though.
Oh, they're not. I didn't know either. I remember seeing that for the first time. I was like, oh, that's a joke. Then he set it out in the sun and unfolded. I was like, that's weird. That's wild.
My side skirts came like in a ball.
Just rolled up like a freaking fruit by the foot.
Yep, it was. Yeah.
No, so I got
nothing to put the bumper on with.
Yeah, so I got nothing to put the bumper on. Opened up the hood and there's nothing for it to mount on the top. The fenders, of course, are caved in on the bottom, so I have to unbend them to hopefully maybe attach the sides of the bumper too. Good news, looks like a lot of people just kind of home make some brackets for the top to be able to just kind of pop it on and off quick. So I'll probably try to go that route.
I'm trying to think. I remember it took me a minute to get my bumper off because it's actually attached in many more areas than I thought it would be.
That's what. Yeah. You should have just got a car that didn't have one.
No, because mine came with a cool bumper. It came with factory and Nismo bumper that I'm not going to put on because I'm scared to break it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I took it for a drive the other night. Around the block real quick. It was real sketchy.
How loud was it?
Insanely loud.
Is it really loud inside? Is it echoey?
Oh, yeah. It makes so many noises.
Damn. Oh, I suppose you can hear all the salt hitting the bottom of the car and all that stuff.
It was fine around my place. It was dry. It was decent. I took it around the block. I was I just wanted to see if made enough clearance with raising the front, how it is. Because it's still stupid low, but a little bit better.
Does it drive straight? Pretty straight?
Yeah.
Okay.
It needs an alignment.
Because Josh's is kind of
it needs an alignment. But no, it's just a lot of noises. It's a loud car.
Yeah.
And at 7:30 p.m., my neighbors weren't probably really having it.
Happy with that. No.
It's just wow. And I don't think I went above 2,500 RPM either.
You have a 4-inch tip on that thing.
Yeah, it's 10.
Yeah, it's
freaking
insane. It's
huge.
A truck, diesel.
It's literally.
Tip.
It's I think I used to sell those at friggin' O'Reilly's. It was just a blast pipe.
No, they sell those at Home Depot. It's called a dryer vent.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, it was pretty. Well, yeah, I still got to come over and see that thing. I haven't done that yet. I do that.
Whatever.
How about tonight at 8:00?
All right, perfect. How's your 240 going? Looks like it's back on the ground.
It's back on the ground. So I've got the whole front end, the angle kit, all the arms and stuff.
Looks nice and pretty.
On it. Thank you. I was so happy how it turned out. Everything's torqued to spec, except for one outer tie rod. I put the wheel on because I was so excited to get on the ground. I forgot to torque the bottom nut. So I have to give an alignment anyways, but
gotcha.
It'll do it. But yeah, I got that. And then this week, I should be getting my seat bracket and my harnesses, or harness. My passenger is probably going to ride in a stock S13 seat with the stock passenger or stock seat belt. So yeah, big moves. But coilovers
or bags.
Man,
That is the
This is
question.
the age-old debate.
It is, and it's like, and it's going to be a fun one to get into because I've recently had experience with both.
Yep.
And have had pros and cons with both.
Yep.
That yeah, it's kind of interesting to see because I've only ever really messed with coilovers before, and then when I first put the RX-8 on air, I was like super excited for it, and now with about a year or so of it being coming up on a year of it being on air and stuff.
Wow, that's crazy.
It is.
That'll be
It's
fast.
crazy to think like it's been that long, but also at the same time, it's like it was like November. And I was
Yeah.
like, damn, I bought this car a year ago, and like it was bone stock.
That's crazy.
And to like where it is now.
Yeah, it's nuts to think about. Now you got 3-piece wheels on there. Like it's
Yeah,
crazy.
wide body wrap, 3-piece.
Yeah, when you
wheels,
got that
bag.
car, we didn't even like have our multi-piece wheels as like a for sure thing.
No.
It was kind of like a hey, if we do well, let's do it.
Yeah, it was like I need a fun project car to start working on and do some stupid stuff too. And I literally went and bought an RX-8, and then it turned into what it did. And I was like, I don't know where this is going, but we're gonna go somewhere with it. That was
Yeah.
pretty much what it was.
And you wrapped it. So,
Yeah.
okay, so you've got air.
Yep.
Firsthand experience.
Yes.
I have not had a car that's had air.
Sure.
What's your opinion on air after having it? Like,
Yeah. I mean, as boring as it sounds to me, I think everything has its place.
Yeah.
Right? I think, coilovers have their place in the world. Bags have their place in the world. Can you kind of intermingle? Yeah, absolutely. What a lot of people kind of boil it down to is like, oh, well, you can't, go drive your car on air. Like, you can't take it to track. And it's like, well, you can.
Mario did it.
Mario did it. I've seen, more than...
He was kind of slow.
I mean, it's like I've seen more than a few people do it, right? But is it like ideal? Probably not. I mean,
Yeah.
you look back at the history of airlift; they started in racing, like
Which
they were.
I don't think anybody really knows unless they really
Yeah,
look
it's a
into it.
really cool backstory. I
Yeah.
mean, they're an older company. You look back and like
Way older
Yeah,
than-
way older than you'd think.
Yeah.
And they were doing like the bags and stuff for like their drag cars and
Yep.
circuit cars to help kind of. It was such an adjustable platform at the time.
It's like infinitely adjustable almost. At that point,
So like
yeah.
they could get what they needed out of it, which is super cool. But like you look at racing back then to racing of today, and now like that is entirely
There's
different.
I don't know of anything that has bags on it except for truck stuff doing like pulling and
Right.
not to jack the weight.
Yeah,
but-
so it's just like I said, they each have their place, and I think they do. When you're looking at like air suspension in particular, it's like, okay, what kind of cars are you seeing air suspension on?
Yeah.
It's typically they're gonna be show cars, and it's like
well, now it's kind of like everything. Like that's the
Yeah.
So people love this and hate this. I love it because I think any style executed well is dope. Like
Yeah.
I don't care. So like Mario's GTR, like that's a very performance oriented car. I've seen a ton of different performance oriented cars on air.
Yeah.
Like even S chassis on air, where it's kind of like never would have thought, but
Right.
like it's kind of crazy. But I'm seeing it personally more and more of just like anything going on air. And I think it's probably also because the technology's gotten better and better.
Right. And I think what a lot of people forget too is like, can you do it? Like, yeah, absolutely. It'll handle it. Like I drive the RX-8 pretty hard, and it's
Yeah.
on air suspension. It's like you have the same adjustability. You can adjust, the shock body. You can adjust damping.
Yep.
And of course, like your spring rate in a sense is going to be how much pressure is in your bag.
Yep.
So it's like, yeah, if you want to, kind of, push it a little further, just add a couple more PSI, stiffen up the bag a little bit. And it's like, that can all be adjusted to what you want. It's like, if you want something, super low and like a higher, pressure and stuff like that, you can do that. If you
Yeah.
want something a little softer, you can set it that way. But like, what I think comes down to is like, if you're looking to just track your car, why would you spend $3,000 on an air suspension setup
expensive.
when you can go spend $3,000 on a really, really nice
Crazy
set
good.
of
Like,
coilovers
external
with like
reservoir.
external reservoir stuff, like multi-way like damping adjustment,
Yep.
all that stuff. That's usually what it comes down to. It's not
Yeah.
like, oh, well, one's better for the other. No, it's like, well, you can get more coilover worth and performance-wise out of $3,000 worth of coilovers
100%.
than because when you're looking at bags, like where the pricing comes in is all the electronic stuff with it. You're talking about your manifold, your compressor, your tank. Like
There's a lot to-
there's
the
a
install.
lot to it, and the install itself too. So actually, the install itself isn't terrible.
Okay.
It's
Wait,
gotten-
when you say
it's
isn't
gotten-
terrible, my mind goes to like it sucks. But
No, it's not.
like,
It's not. Bad. If you're doing it on jack stands in your garage, like I did, yeah, kind of sucks.
that's how most people I think are gonna do it. Let's be real here.
Yeah. So I mean, it's definitely doable. I did mine in a matter of like a weekend or so. The thing is, it's like one thing a lot of people kind of forget about is like your trunk setup, and I'm still kind of dealing with mine a little bit because like you want that stuff, you need it to stay in place, and it's like you have to like drill holes and things. You have to be a little bit of like a carpenter in a sense to like kind of build a trunk setup, especially if you want it to like look nice. It's like you can just run bolts and screws into everything, but it's like, obviously you don't want to do that.
Right.
You want it to look decent. And you open up the trunk and you can see it. And
look presentable,
like haggard.
Just flying all over the place, which obviously would be bad.
Yeah. So I mean, you look at companies like Airlift and stuff. They provide some insane instructions to it. It's like literally like color printed instructions with wiring diagrams of the entire system, built for your car. Like if you're looking at the instructions, there are color photos of someone installing that suspension on the same vehicle that you're installing. Nice. And that it's such a nice reference point, because how many times it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna install coilovers or just anything, and it's like I have the part, and they just have a a
one pager,
remove
old
bumper.
Stuff.
Yeah, remove old stuff. Make sure new stuff is good. Put new stuff on. Yeah, it's like cool.
You're
and
good
then
to go.
What's the first thing you do? Well, you go to Google, you can go to YouTube, and you go see if someone else has done it.
Yeah.
Where it's like, no, you have it right there. And it was honestly super straightforward when we were doing the RX-8 stuff. All the wiring stuff, all of like the lines and everything.
Yeah.
Hooking up like the water traps and things like that. It was super straightforward. And Dakota, I think, said it best. Is like, if you can hook up a radio and you can install coilovers, you can install air suspension.
Just take your time, like kind of anything else. And
so that's another point we'll get into too. Is like it's such an important factor to like take your time with this. You want to make sure that nothing is touching anything. Like when you're looking at airlines, that
no bolts from your suspension or steering are going to hit
especially
your bags.
Aired up and out.
Yep.
When you're turning, there's a lot of factors that go into play here, which we'll talk on in a bit too. But yeah, I mean, when you're looking at ease of install, obviously, air is going to take longer. You have a lot more components.
I don't know. We did those coilovers in that STI.
Right. Okay. But here's the thing: we got the coils in, and we were done.
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, now you got to run air lines. Now you got to find a place. Where you put your manifold. Where you mount the tank. How you got to remove all the friggin' interior stuff of that. You got to run the electrical, and it's like, it just adds that extra piece to it. So I mean, it's more pieces to install. It's going to take a little bit longer.
I mean, coilovers are pretty easy. Like I've done it on enough cars now where as long as you get the setup done right, like, it hurts, but like I know some people who was like, they literally just take them out of the box and like screw them together and throw them on, and their car's like sitting crooked. And I'm like,
it's like all different heights and everything.
Like, measure anything, did you? And like, no.
Oh, you're supposed to? I thought it came preset. No.
Once again, like most coilovers don't come with great instructions.
No, they don't.
Like at all. Usually it's like, don't touch this, don't touch that, don't kill yourself.
Great. Good luck.
Very good. Okay. But like when it comes to coilovers too, I think with air, correct me if I'm wrong because you're more of the air guy, there's overall there's more better quality options. But with coilovers, you can get really bad, like dangerously bad. We won't name the brands. Y'all have probably heard of them, but like scarily sketchy stuff that's out there.
I've seen some really bad stuff on that.
Yeah, I've seen some welds break in areas that like
welds break that they're literally just like not straight, like they're just bent.
That's the funniest part. Is like, oh, my camber's off. It's like, well, because your coilover's
like bent at a freaking like 3-degree angle. Yeah.
But the sky also can be the limit as far as like what you're looking to do as far as cost goes.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. I don't think. This might change in like 5 or 10 years or so, because like you're looking at like the technology that's getting thrown into like air suspension and things like that, because there's a ton of like companies out there. There's more companies out there that actually make like the actual struts and like air struts and stuff. But there's even more companies out there that make, or not. There's not as many companies out there that make like the actual like manifolds and management for it. So that's where I think like AccuAir and Airlift and what's another one that Function and Form I think has come out with one that's pretty decent. That's where they kind of got that unlock, and it's really the actual bag part that is that's going to be your focus point. Like that's where you don't want that to fail,
because you're kind of SOL if that fails.
Yeah. So which kind of brings me to where I think we should go next with this is like the overall driving experience and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So obviously, when you're looking at coilovers and you're talking things like spring rates, you're talking about like static cars, like slammed cars.
Well, that's the other thing. We can get into it later, but like with coilovers, there is a huge art to damping and spring rate.
Yes.
Where I think a vast majority of people are like, oh, coilovers, they're stiff and they make the car ride like poop. But in reality, it's like, well, there's a lot you can change up. But we can talk about that. But yeah,
it's like, you can go get just like a whatever coilover and just throw a 100K spring on it and be like, oh, damn, these things ride like shit. It's like, well, yeah, because the damping ain't, like the valving isn't there to like.
The front end's like, just
it's like,
like a
it's like you can have 100K springs and it not break your back. I mean, yeah, it's going to be a little rough, but like it can be mitigated.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, like driving experience. So it's like we're talking like you can get your coilovers like really custom built for what you're wanting to do. Air suspension, on the other hand, I haven't really seen much of that of like, oh, well, there's an external reservoir for your air suspension, or there's know, things like as much as like adjustability and things like that goes. Like I said, yeah, like your spring rate and stuff like that, always adjustable with air suspension. You have damping adjustment, but like when it comes to like valving and things like that, it's not. There really isn't that.
Yeah, and that's where coilovers like I love air. I think it's dope.
Coilovers are so customized.
I know. At some point, I really do want to have like a cool VIP style car on air because I just think like a big body Japanese car aired out, with good wheels, Anovia wheels, looks dope. But I really like coilovers because I love the nerdiness of like fine tuning this stuff and how crazy you can get when it comes to everything from spring rate to damping and all the adjustability, ride height, and all that stuff. And that's where you can really make or break a car. Where like on my IS. Right now I've got 14K front springs, and what I was told that for drifting is like, hey, like you should get higher spring rate because my front of the car dives. Like it is like a wet noodle. It is like very floppy. So everyone's like, or more majority of people are like, hey, 20K spring rate is what you want to get. And I was like, that's crazy. Like that's really high. But rode in a couple cars, like with the right damping and stuff like that, is like, no, rode in one car. With the right damping, I was like, oh, this is not bad at all. This is like crazy how much better it is. But that just goes to show you how much like you need to customize it and like make sure you know what you're doing. But like if you are just looking to lower your car, coilovers is probably the easiest way. Like just go and do it.
Absolutely, yeah. Because even it's like, oh, what about learning experience? Well, you gotta like disassemble everything.
I know.
And that's like, it's kind of scary, and like that honestly takes more time because you're doing the same thing. You're actually adding more steps with like a set of lowering springs than just swapping out with a new.
And the cost you save in lowering springs, I think you make up a little bit as far as the labor goes. Yeah. And the results, I mean, depending on the car, like I had a S197 Mustang on lowering springs, and that's a pretty general way that those cars get lowered and get some performance enhancements. But if you can go with a true coilover, it's way better. It's not hard. As long as your car isn't rusty, it's pretty easy.
Yeah, because like I said, you have to remove the same amount of stuff.
It's like 4 bolts usually. Yeah. Like 5 if you have an ABS sensor.
Right.
But
either way, you got to take the old stuff out.
Yeah, but I think the driving experience on coilovers can be. It really depends on what you want to do. Like if you have a slam like stance car, it's not fun.
So here's kind of my main point with it, and where I tend to do a lot of back and forth with what I would prefer.
Yep.
Because I had the FRSs on coils.
Yep.
I got 240 on coils now. I've had other cars that were on like lowering springs, stuff like that. I can just hop in those cars, go beat the snot out of them, have a good time. And it's like, honestly, with like the RX-8 and the air suspension, it's always in the back of my mind.
Like what if the bag goes out?
Like, is something going to happen?
Yeah.
Did I make sure I checked everything? Am I sure nothing's rubbing? Am I sure nothing's getting pulled on? Do I have a leak somewhere? What if, because I've seen it happen. I've literally been driving with people and literally saw someone's like leader line on their bag just blow out, like as they're like full lock going through a corner, and it just destroyed their fender.
I believe
and
that.
It was like, oh my God, what do you do now? Like,
tow truck.
It's like literally just because of a line failing. Now, obviously, that doesn't happen a lot.
Right.
And I'll talk on that in a second. But it's like, it does happen. It's like freaking scary, especially if like you're going down like the highway or something.
Suspension failure.
Yeah. Like, it's like your suspension's
bad.
like
you're way okay, between air and coilovers, assuming you have a quality coilover and both are installed like correctly, your chances of air having a colossal failure are higher than a coilover.
Yeah, there's a lot more parts to go wrong. That, like you said, like your one supporting factor is the amount of PSI in that bag.
Yeah.
If something happens to compromise the amount of PSI in that bag, you're going to have a bad time.
Yes.
And it's like, yeah, there's just more room for error there, which is why the installation is so important and maintenance on it is so important.
Yeah.
You know, it's making sure that, like I said, nothing is touching. You don't want anything touching. You know, like the lines touching. You want to make sure that when you're at full lock, nothing's like rubbing or anything. You know, I've seen people wear through bags because they, you know, when they're at a certain ride height, the bag squishes down, becomes bigger in diameter.
Oh, so then it rubs.
So then it rubs on the tire. Well, they don't know that, and it's just enough to like wear through that, and eventually compromise the integrity of that bag, and it blows out. I've seen things where like people, you know, put their wiring harness and stuff for their air management. You know, they'll run it through like the fender or something like that.
Oh,
and then like wheel. From constantly like airing up and out and stuff like that, it breaks through that wiring harness.
That's a 240 thing. Check your harness, by the way.
Oh, great.
Because in the wheel wells, I bet you the guy rerouted it, but make sure that it's like over the fender versus like under it.
Okay.
Because you want it to go
up. Yeah, and the whole like engine bay is like wire tucked, so I'm not sure where.
Oh, you're good then. Sorry, that was a 240 pro tip. Tuck those harnesses.
Yeah, but like, yeah, it's like always in the back of my mind. It's like, oh my god, like something will go wrong.
That would drive me nuts because I'm the type of person where, it like that sort of stuff freaks me out.
Yeah.
Like the what if. I wouldn't do well with that, especially in performance application. And I've had stuff fail on me while driving hard, and it sucks.
Yeah, because you have multiple things. You have the air, you have the electronic stuff. Oh, by the way, side tangent here.
Yeah.
Height sensors, not a fan.
No?
I am not.
So you go by pressure?
So I go solely by pressure.
Okay.
So I know, so the introduction of height sensors kind of, you know, at least for some of like the popular managements and stuff like that, kind of new. I know like Acura for a while, that was all their thing. Like that
so
was like their...
for our viewers, because I know all this stuff, like can I explain to them how the height management works?
Yeah, so basically...
I don't know how this works.
So basically it is a sensor that you have to mount somewhere on the vehicle.
Okay.
And you have to attach a rod. Or
is it uniform? Like, does it say on your type of vehicle, like, where you should usually attach, or is like a spot where you suggest it to?
Typically, no.
Ooh, that's scary.
Yeah. So that's why it's like such a pain in the ass, because like a lot of times you have to like drill into like your frame and like tap it. And
the other thing with air is like I think you need to be someone that's comfortable with putting holes in your car.
Yes, a lot of holes.
Because like that's a.
I mean, you can utilize like for instance, like I didn't have to drill any holes in my car. I utilized like the trunk like drains and stuff like that.
Oh, that's nice.
Like I just kind of punched through like the rubber grommets and ran the lines up through. So
sick.
you can do that, and then we just ran the lines next to like the brake lines.
But to secure the stuff like in your trunk setup and whatnot.
Yeah. I actually just put like an extra piece of board in there, cut the size, and then just did everything to that, so I didn't have to drill any. But but for some applications, you have to. It's literally you have to drill through the floor or something like that. The height sensors, they're a freaking, in my experience, like. Just not worth it, in my opinion. I just rather have a pressure bait. Yeah, because you have extra parts. And
it's all new technology.
Yeah, newer technology. You have the extra sensors themselves. So like you have to mount the sensor somewhere. You have a linkage rod that connects from the sensor arm to some point on the suspension. You got to make sure that your rears are on the same exact spot, fronts are on the same exact spot, so they can level. And then what it does is it goes through and calibrates everything. It's like, okay, here's the lowest, here's the highest. You got to make sure that nothing is binding through all that articulation, because your arms will break if they do bind. The linkages will break if they bind. And if those go wrong, if something breaks, that is literally what the management is like saying. It's like, okay, we're here, we're good.
We are. This
is normal ride height, and all of a sudden you're going down and something binds up and that linkage breaks and it just starts to dangle. It's like, oh, we're too high. We need to air out. And I literally had a vehicle with a certain air management
and just
have a sensor break on the highway. And again, most likely that we just installed it incorrectly. Incorrectly, and it started airing out at like 70 miles an hour, and it scared the absolute shit out of me. I'm like, I've
heard this story.
I hate this. I mean, so yeah, I would recommend pressure-based system because I always see how much pressure is in there. It's really easy. You don't have to deal with the freaking height sensors. You don't have to deal with like things breaking.
Yeah.
The calibration is usually a lot more easier. It's just you convert like, okay, 70 psi is my ride height, or
easy peasy.
It's easy. Yeah. Yeah. So height sensors, they have their place.
Wait,
they have their place.
Hold on. So you've had 2 experiences of just total failure of airlift?
I've had
sorry, not airlift. Air suspension.
Personally, I've had one experience, and then again, because I don't think it was installed properly, but it was because it had to rely on that to use it. If it would have just been a pressure-based system, it would have been fine. It could have like overrid that or whatever. It would have been known that like, hey, we're good. Because it was literally just because that sensor arm broke and it tripped it out. And I'm like, that's kind of scary. But I know they kind of reduce that now because it's a pressure and height based system.
So it's like a fail
safe. If one goes out, the other will pick it up. Which I'm like, I don't know why that wasn't just like that from the beginning. But it's whatever.
I mean, there are ways to install coilovers wrong. We got to check your situation with your top hats on your 240.
Yeah, why they're at like a 45-degree angle.
Weird. We'll save that for another day.
It's my caster.
Yeah, your caster.
My caster plates.
Caster. But yeah, there are ways to do it wrong, and there are ways to adjust it wrong. Where a lot of times people won't adjust the actual like shock body and like thread it in and out. They'll just
like crank the preload up.
It's just like, oh yeah, you're like 20K spring is like a 40K spring now. Like it. But a failure that way, like I've on my Skyline, I drove it and I was like, man, like. It feels a little weird, like in the back. It's like something feels a little off, but like I don't know. Like it's a loud car, like there's a lot going on. I parked it, and then I went out to the garage like the next day, and there's a puddle under the car, and I was like, "Uh-oh, that's not good. That's supposed to be in the car." And
as it usually is,
It turns out one of the shocks, the seals completely failed, and it was just blown out. Which that can happen. I still got home, like it wasn't a problem. But the cool thing that I do like about coilovers, especially if you get like some brands offered, is like you can have them rebuilt. So it's like if you do drive it hard, or it's like you want to change your spring rate and then you have to actually change your damping, you can have it redone. And that initial investment you made is still a good investment because it costs less.
Absolutely. I know Fortunato does a really good job with that. Like they market theirs as like a modular coilover, like a lifetime product.
Some for the IS 300.
Nice. I kind of really want to get some for the 240 too, because like. I've just seen a lot of good stuff with them. I know a lot of people here like them. I know Dakota loves Fortunato's got them in the Supra.
Dude, like
he had them on like every like car, I swear. If it wasn't bags, it was Fortunato. So good stuff, but it's like a modular coilover. So it's like you can get like their 500 series, run it for a few years, and it's like, okay, I want to get it like rebuilt, maybe different spring rate. You can also upgrade it to like the 510 series. They literally just swap out some parts and you're good to go, which is super cool.
Well, and the other thing with coilovers too is when you look at the springs, a lot of coilover manufacturers offer Swift spring upgrades. A billion% do it.
Recommend it?
100, billion%. I'm not going back on that. That's
billions a lot.
Billions, big percent. I will say though, the Swift spring color is pretty ugly.
Isn't it like the gray color? Or it's like a light blue, or like
they change it sometimes, but one of the more popular ones is like the orange that came on 350Zs. That is like that burnt orange that like the early 2000s was like, this is a cool color. That's what I have on the IS right now on the Cuscos. The Cuscos are like silver, blue, and red, and then it has these like orange springs. It's not
on a
good.
Like gray car.
It's like the Wish version of 326 Power. It's just like all the wrong colors.
Just a hodgepodge of different colors.
But they're totally worth it. Like Google Swift Springs, it's really interesting because like they have their own facility. It's really cool how those springs are made. Not saying that like the factory springs that come with most coilovers are bad, but like the Swift Spring upgrade, noticeable difference as far as like the quality of it. So it's that's huge. But yeah, where else do you want to go with this? There's a million different ways.
I just kind of thinking like a lot of like the main points that people have for each, right? Another one being like, okay, well, what about winter? What about people that live
that's
up
a
in
myth.
like colder stuff? Yeah,
we totally disprove that, and everyone's like, oh, you can't drive bags in the winter. It's like
you absolutely can.
Right, Mario with a lack of maintenance also on
Mario's the last person that should be running air on his R35 all year round.
But he has torture tested that system. I don't think he's drained the water. I think he
Airlift needs to do like a case study.
On
that car.
Like, it's possible. Like, holy crap, guys.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, you totally can run it in the winter. He's smart about it though. Like, we joke aside, like Mario's smart about where it's like if it's like negative 10 degrees out, he just keeps aired up.
Yeah.
He's just like,
and that's just a safety precaution on his end. He's like, I just don't want to I don't want to risk anything happening. But it's like you can get an antifreeze, like an airline antifreeze to use. Water traps, absolute must. Empty them out
That's
as well.
the other.
Yeah, empty the water traps and empty the tank too.
Yeah.
Like, because
Any compressor, like you're pulling air in, it's compressing it.
Yep.
Especially if it's any sort of humidity, it's going to
especially
draw
if
that
you're moving
in there.
from like summer to like winter months and stuff like that. Absolutely.
I can never get over like in my air compressor in my garage.
How much water?
Yeah, when I go to drain, I was like, it's just like SeaWorld, like it's just crazy, just splash zone.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean it's in a sense it's just it's going to require more maintenance.
Yeah.
There's more parts.
It's just it's more complicated.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's like worse anyway, but I think if you're sitting here and you're listening to this, you're like, well, I want to lower my car. What do I do? Which one do I do? Like, you really got to understand that like air is going to come with some baggage, and you're going to have to. Baggage. Got it. But you're going to have to be okay with that. And if you're not, you're probably going to hate it.
Yeah.
And if you want that your car to look just hella slammed when it's sitting still, coilovers probably are not going to be great because that stance sitting still is not going to be fun driving around.
Yeah, and that's another argument point too. Is like, oh well, drive or park it like you drive it, or drive it like you park it kind of thing. And it's like I get that to an extent because I have seen builds that are on air. Aired out, they look amazing. They got like a crazy.
We need to talk about
good
this.
wide wheel on it, right? Good wide wheels,
good
good fitment, and then they air up, and it's like
Monster Jam.
truck status, and it's like hella poke, and it's like freaking
It's-
custom offsets entered the chat. Like, yeah,
Whoa.
I've seen some pretty
Dude, send that
bad
car to Lift a Truck
aired up
Nationals.
fitment. Yeah,
Yeah, that is, I will say, one of my pet peeves with air is when the car looks absolutely great, slam, like sitting on the ground, and it airs up, and there's like a 4-inch wheel gap, and you're like, what?
Yeah, and it's just kind of the nature of the beast, right? Because it's like if you're static, you're staying at that ride height.
Yeah.
You're going to get the wheel specs for that ride height. You're going to get the tire spec for that ride height. You're going to adjust your camber and everything for that ride height.
Exactly.
For air, it's like, I'm going to air out, see how it goes, kind of adjust it from there. And it's like, okay, but I want to drive it and not scrape on anything because that's what you get air for.
But
then it's like, it airs up and it's like, like.
Well, it's like, it's nice with air where you can air up a little bit, and then if there's a crazy driveway, it's like, all right, let's just boost up a little bit, and then we'll be safe.
Yeah, that's like, a lot of people are like, oh, why didn't you go with like, you got a wide body RX on air, why didn't you go with like a 12 wide in the rear with like, it's like, because I didn't want the monster truck like pokey fitment when all said and done. Because that car's got an insane camber arc to it when it airs out, and like especially the fronts just keep going.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to like, I could have went with like a really like much more aggressive setup, but then it's like I air up and it looks really weird, and then it's like obviously I want it to look good while driving. So it's kind of a fine line and kind of math game to play, especially with like some cars of like, okay, what can fit?
Yeah.
Of course, what's gonna look good aired out, but also what's gonna look good aired up? Because I feel like a lot of people don't
drive
take
around
that
like
into
that.
consideration.
You look like a clown.
Yeah.
And then you air out and they're like, oh, well, that's cool, but you look dumb.
Yeah. So
the other time.
I think it looks pretty decent aired up. I'm just not gonna...
I think it looks good now with the new wheels.
Yeah.
Before,
Yeah.
there were some fitment issues.
Yeah, that was a fun.
Fitment industries.
That was cause of not a lot of people have wide body
excuses incoming.
RX-8s.
Warning.
No
Excuses incoming.
fitment info on that specific kit. Rushing to get spacers on order because we needed to get the stuff filmed. That was a rush case
It didn't
scenario.
look that bad. I'm giving you a hard time.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
So, okay, when you're aired up, obviously you don't want to be a monster truck. Let's talk about coilovers, though.
Yeah.
Because I think it was a fad probably like 6 to 8, maybe 10 years ago, where if like the static gang was like the biggest thing, like mad respect, bro, for like...
It's still kind of there.
It is, but I don't feel like it's as strong. Is it as strong?
I think TikTok's keeping it alive. I'm not gonna lie.
TikTok keeps the dumbest shit alive.
Yeah,
I
mean,
say that.
I literally see quite a bit of it. Of like,
So, although that is like a very attention-grabbing thing.
Yeah.
But like I remember there used to be this whole, maybe it's because I'm old and that's why I have this opinion now. But
maybe I don't.
it was like static or bust. Like
Yeah.
I'm not a poser. And then there's like just bacon fenders and like just Supreme stickers all over like
Yep.
the
I'm
bacon
just gonna
fenders.
slap a sticker on it to cover up the damage that it did.
I
yeah.
know, and like I don't know. I thought as a world and society we may have moved past that.
No,
Apparently
it's,
we have
it's
not.
still.
If you're a
thriving.
static dude, it's cool, but like don't tell other people they're not as cool because they're not static, because that person might, I don't know, not want to like wreck their car. Because like the other thing too is like if you're static like that, you're gonna hit stuff, and your car is not gonna like that.
Yeah, that's like kind of like why I specifically went the air route with the RX-8. I'm like, I know I'm gonna have like some decent wheels on here. I know I'm going to throw some carbon pieces on it that I don't want to just get smashed up by the road.
Yeah.
I'd like to have the opportunity, if I could, just air up a little bit, get over some obstacles, get in the driveways, and not have to, scrape everything up and bust fiberglass up and things like that. So
you don't have to, yeah.
Yeah.
I will say, there's the secret happy medium between the two of them that not everyone knows about. There's this thing called air cups.
And it's very misunderstood.
Yeah. So from my perspective, my opinion, I think air cups are super, super dope.
Yes.
Because when you have a car that goes to the track and you're cool and your car is low as it should be, it's hard to get on a trailer or get a jack,
Just
jack
do
under
anything
there.
with it, yeah.
Yeah, especially if you have aero and it's all of a sudden it's like, I have to lift my car and you have to take your aero off and all that stuff. It's like you just drive up, boop, and then do what you need to do.
Yeah, so there's a really, really common misconception with air cups. It's like, it's like I can just get coils and adjust my ride height with the air cups. It's like, no.
Don't do that.
You do not drive air cups aired up. That is not what they are meant for. They are solely meant for a functional purpose of working on the car or getting under the car or getting the car on trailers or something like that. They can, if you need to get into a steep driveway, just pop them up a little bit, get over, that's fine. But it's your ride height is not going to be adjusted with that. You're not going to be like, I'm going to put a couple PSI in the air cups.
That's not how it works.
It's a little rough road. It's no, this is not how that works. It's solely just a functionality purpose of I would say track. It's drive from the track. It's people that, like you said, need to get under the car, put a jack under it, or get it on a trailer, or in a tricky situation where they just need that little pop. I mean, you look at companies like Lamborghini and these supercars have been doing that for a long time.
Oh, they have the front assist.
Assist, yep. It's basically the same thing. It's they're not driving like that.
You're just made to get over a speed bump or whatever. So we're getting a little bit away here, but the magnetic suspension and stuff that's coming out now, that stuff is crazy. Yeah. Where you can kind of dynamically adjust.
Yep. Which is why a lot of people, we seeing such a rise in lowering springs come back because the Camaro owners specifically have that they magnetically
the
electronically
super fancy.
Yeah, they have that electronic control damping. Toyota or Dakota Supra. He was torn. It's I kind of like the different modes and stuff like that. I control the damping from inside. He's like, do I just get lowering springs? I was like, nah, just get coilovers.
Yeah,
ball out.
Be a cool guy.
Yeah, but it's a lot of people like to keep that because they like the different modes that they can put it in. It's they want just a little bit of a softer ride because it's I just want my Camaro a little lower, some nice wheels on it. I don't need something super aggressive.
I don't also want to get rid of all this factory.
Exactly, and it's kind of a pain in the butt to do because we did the coils on Dakota Supra.
Yeah, that took no time. That was like that.
Yeah, it didn't stay up till 4 a.m. installing coilovers.
Oh, that's so funny.
But it wasn't even that. It was other things. But no, it was we had to hit this whole thing to bypass those sensors so it didn't trip out the whole freaking car.
Well, that's the other thing too. Cars, modern-ish cars, get more and more complicated. Now you have things like ABS to work with, and we talk about rubbing. I was gonna say this before I forgot. So I put my angle kit in my 240. Yeah, it's on coilovers, and I go to turn at lock, and at lock, the inside of my wheel, which is pretty gnarled up from off-road excursions, is completely rubbing on my factory brake line. No. So I was
that's not good.
I've got other brake lines I'm gonna buy here soon. The extended ones around them, but no matter what you go with air or coilovers, just make sure you're not rubbing on stuff.
Make sure it clears.
Yeah, it clears. Or if it doesn't, that you trim or whatever. Because last thing you want to do is all of a sudden turn aggressively and you just rip your bumper off.
Oh, right.
That's
not good. The amount of trimming that I had to do with the new setup, I still have a lot to do. I still have some metal to pound away on the inside because I can't turn more than probably.
Your turning radius sucked before.
Yeah, and it's worse now.
Oh my god! When I had to drive your car before, you're just be careful how much it rubs. And I was turning,
okay.
I was oh my god! This is not good.
I literally had to trim almost all of the.
The fender well?
The fender well.
The fender lining?
Yeah, where the over fenders were, they had a bit of a lip on it.
Yeah.
If you did run static and you aren't tucking in the tire wheel up there. So I had to trim a ton of that out to fit the tire in there. And then, the turning in the front had to trim some out. And then it's literally part of the car that I have to deal with now to pound flat or cut out to make sure I can turn. And once that's good, then we're good. But
make sure in the gallery you put that like some trimming required.
Some trimming, major trimming required.
Big trimming, like cut the fenders off.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's, no matter what you want to do, like if you want to go super low air or coils, you're gonna have to put some work in. Yep. But like, I think TikTok also makes it seem like, oh, this car's just super slammed, and you don't realize that. Don't do this, by the way. That they cut out the top of their strut tower, so their upper control arm can the ball joint can clear.
Yep.
Don't do that.
What about washers? You just replace the spring with washers.
Yeah, don't do that.
Why?
It's not good.
I've seen so much of that lately.
Like I don't know, TikTok is like the Moss Isley of car stuff. It's just like scum and villainy of like just growth. Where I'm like, don't show this because people are gonna go do it. Like I've seen like this trend of like people just cutting off the top of their strut tires, and I was like, man, I remember this in like the early 2000s. Like we had to because we didn't have adjustable arms or couldn't afford it. Yep. Now there's like enough companies out there, even like the cheaper companies making them.
Yeah, it's a wild time. Internet's a freaking minefield.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
The thing is, like, you can't argue that one is really better, and I think that's a lot of people. Like, a lot of people need to come to this conclusion. Like, this is better. This is why. And it's like you don't need to come to that conclusion. The conclusion is that depending on what application you're looking for, what is going to work better for you.
Yep. There's trade-offs to both.
It's literally trade-offs. Yeah.
And that's all it comes down to. And I think what anyone listening to this, like I said, if you're on the fence, just think of what you want to do with the car. If and also like what you're gonna do with it and what your propensity for like install or risk or any of that. And ultimately, if like you're worried, you can have a shop do the install. Like we do a lot of our stuff ourselves, but if you're like, I'm worried about it, or you have a brand new car and you want to put air on it, like spend the money and have a shop do it. Like they'll do it right, hopefully.
A shop that knows what they're doing.
Yeah, don't just go to like someone be like, hey,
don't go to Joe's Auto Repair in northern Wisconsin.
Some air suspension you need to put on there.
I got quoted in my hometown $600 to install a set of lowering springs on my Eclipse because it was a Japanese car.
Oh yeah, I ran into that with my Integra when I lived in the Upper Peninsula, Michigan. I had a fuel line burst. I also drove it 3 hours there with a burst fuel line. I don't know. Anyways, gas mileage sucked. I don't know why.
Oh, that's weird.
But they charged me like almost $1,000 to replace his fuel line, and the guy said he had to go to the hardware store and buy metric sockets. And I was like,
come on.
I don't believe you for a second, because you're telling me that you've never worked on like anything with metric. Like even like more newer USDM stuff has metric.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't remember like even my Neon had metric stuff in it. Like,
dude, my F-150 is like just a hodgepodge.
Yeah.
It's just like...
It's all over the place, yeah.
It's like, I don't know, could be metric or it could be like kind of metric.
So it's like the RX-8s where everything's just a 17 mil. I don't know why. Literally everything is like 17.
That was what I really like about the IS. I have every bolt on the front end memorized as far as like what socket it is.
Yeah.
So I can just grab like a 17, 19.
You don't have to grab like a whole toolbox and you just grab like,
I just get ones.
4 sockets for the day.
And now with the 240, I'm like, okay, are you a 17 or 19 or whatever?
Yeah.
I don't know, but we got to figure it out.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't think there has to be a conclusion on what's better. It's like...
No, you're not going to get one from us because there isn't one. Like, you could do a hot take and be like, air's best, but like, it's...
Because I've been in that situation too. I'm like, oh man, like, why would you bag that car? That's so stupid. Like, that ruins the whole point of the car. Like, why would you bag your WRX? It's like, well, maybe... Because that's what they're using it for. They're using it for a show car. They're not going
to time attack it or whatever.
Yeah, it's like that's what they wanted to do. And it's like, I don't know, like you said, maybe it's just us getting old. It's like I can see both sides of the fence.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think one's better than the other. My personal preference is definitely coilovers, like for sure.
Yeah.
Because I don't like the risk factor with air and like the whole installing it. Like I don't really want to deal with it unless I got the really special car.
Yeah.
Hey, Jake Spence, what's your preference? Air or coilovers?
Trying to rub me into this?
You're in it.
Absolutely.
You're in it.
You've been sitting here the whole time.
Yeah, Jake Spence has been sitting here the whole time. Here, we got
Beamer Street.
We got a special guest.
Oh boy.
Here's a microphone, Jake. Do you have a preference between air and coilovers?
Yes. Coils.
What's your preference?
Coils are the move. Although,
why do you say that?
It's like lust for air. On my like a
like the M3 would
bagged
bag
out
would be
car,
pretty dope.
Like a bag daily that you're not gonna thrash on too hard, I'm all about it.
All right, so we have come to the conclusion there is no conclusion.
Exactly.
Because we're all in the same boat. Like,
Yeah.
we all kind of think the same thing.
Yeah, it's
I
like,
do want air. I've never had air, just coils, but with the help of you and Dakota,
we can knock that shit out in like 3 days.
I don't know. It took them like 12 hours to do the Supras.
It's 14
so
hours, okay.
These guys, it's always something that comes up, but that's how it goes. I mean, every time I'm working on something, you watch a video on YouTube, you're like, oh, it'll be an hour, and then the whole night goes to shit, and
Yep.
your car's stuck on jack stands until the next day.
Yeah.
Yep, I know how that goes.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this like 14-year-old kid's gonna show me how to do this thing, like install this, and it's like, oh, that went way
I
smoother
should
for him.
believe everything that this is.
Cool. I appreciate your input, Jake.
You guys are
Thanks,
killing
Jake.
it.
Appreciate
All
it.
right. Well, now that we have the conclusion of no conclusion, I have the world's tiniest microphone now. I think we can probably wrap this one up.
Yeah, I mean, there's really not much to touch on. Like, it's just a fun topic to talk about because people just seem to get so
I
like
do
riled
like
up about
these
it.
comparison things, and I think we should get some input from the audience.
Yeah.
Like, message us, comment, whatever you
Yeah,
want,
listen to
and
this
send
on
us
YouTube
topic
or watch
ideas.
this on YouTube. You know, feel free to comment. We read
Yeah.
all the comments and stuff. And
We literally read all of them. We read every message.
yeah, shoot
or I
us a
yell
message
at
on
Giles.
Instagram, and yeah, it's literally my job to read messages. So
And reply to them, too. Not just
Yeah.
read them like, yep, read.
wait,
okay,
I'm supposed to
we're-
reply to
we're-
them? I just delete them.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
No,
Cool.
but no, I love talking about this stuff. Like I said, I'm glad I've been finally able to experience both.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've only had like coils learning experience my whole life, and
You know what we didn't? Sorry, before we end it, what
Yeah.
we didn't say is the first time I hopped in Gel's car, I had never like used air, and we were doing this like TikTok shoot.
oh yeah,
And I was just like, first of all, I was like, I don't know how air works. Like,
Yep.
it was like, what do I do? And Gel's like, yeah, click this thing like 2 times. Or I was like, okay. And like
yeah.
Dakota
Okay,
was
not
out
gonna
there.
lie. What the hell is up with freaking air controllers? They need. Why is it just like ride height up? It's like a complicated like freaking.
But it's
cheat
three
code.
It's 3 like blank buttons, and
yeah,
I'm like,
they're blank buttons. You have no idea what they are.
I was like, what do I do? And so Dakota like came over and he's like, oh, I'll help you, you little new guy.
God.
And he's like, do this. I was like, okay. So I aired up. I was like, ooh, that's cool. And then I tried it with the car in reverse. And I was like, where is reverse in this thing? Because I'm used to like crappy old Nissans, which is like boop, boop.
Yeah.
Like just, it's like a 6th gear, but backwards 6th gear.
Yep.
And I was like, what is going on? And I kept rolling the car forward in the front of Fitment Industries. There's like a cliff. And I was like approaching it. And I'm like, what is
like
going on?
push it down.
Yeah. I was like,
push it down.
oh,
Yeah.
like, there's the cheat code. So yeah, RX-8 really hard to drive.
Really off note too. I did the same thing when I test drove the FRS. Because it had like the little lockout thing.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I had the E36. I was like, okay, you have to like push it really far over. I've had ones where you had to push down.
because the BMW is like a
It's like-
dog leg thing, isn't it?
yeah, it's like
over.
you gotta like push it and then yeah.
Yeah.
But I was like, what the fuck? I'm like pushing down on it. I'm like trying to really. I'm like, oh my god. The guy's like watching me out the window. Like, hey, you can drive manual, right? I'm like, yeah, I've been driving manual like my whole life. And I'm like, where the hell is reverse?
we should do a topic about driving manuals because there's so many fun stories.
Oh, there's
and
so
like
many good ones.
crazy things. Like we could do like manuals versus autos, and
I think we
all
just
that
tell our
stuff.
like manual stories of like us learning to drive. I'm sure you've tried to teach someone how to drive manual, right?
No. No, because the manual cars that I've had have been like an R32 with a twin
What,
plate.
you don't.
And then
You
an
don't
IS.
take your buddies out and teach them how to drive manual in that.
No. Because this will be a preview of that story. I hadn't driven manual in a long time before I bought that car.
Sure.
So the last manual I drove was I moved he was dating this girl at the time. She had a Civic with a stock transmission. It had like 1 billion miles on it. And it was like the easiest thing. You just like put it in gear and like the clutch didn't even matter. So I was like, oh, this is easy. This is fun. And then I got that car and I had to figure that out like in Atlanta. And not good. That clutch.
Yeah, and I've seen video of that thing.
That's the diff.
Oh,
I got the same diff for the 240.
nice.
Yeah. All right. On that note, I think we can close it out.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for listening, depending on where you're consuming
Watching
this
and
podcast.
listening. If you're watching and listening to this,
That's a real one.
that's amazing.
Yeah, but thank you guys so much. If you guys are in need of some new wheels, tires, or suspension,
We have
coilovers,
suspension.
or air, we got it.
Yeah.
NoviaWheels.com. You can go check it out. We got some good stuff going on right now. I think, I don't want to date this too far, but we just lowered some prices on some specific
We
wheels
did
and
because
stuff,
we're
so-
car guys.
Yeah.
We want you guys to have car guy prices.
Yeah, we were like, hey, these don't need to be as much as they are. So we
Yeah.
lowered them a little bit for you guys. So you can go check those out too, all over at AnoviaWheels.com. Don't forget to subscribe or follow or rate the podcast, I think is a thing. I don't know.
I think it is a
I'm
thing.
all
You can
new
leave
to
us a
this
review.
stuff.
Or
Leave
just
us a review.
send us a
Yeah.
message with a review. Like, yeah, be like, you guys suck.
Yeah, and let us know what you'd like us to cover in some upcoming episodes. Like I said, we're always open to suggestions, reading comments, messages, things like that. But until then,
I'm Sam.
I'm Jealous.
See you guys.
See you next one.